which is your anatomy and physiology, which is what we're doing. So as a beauty therapist, it's important to have a good understanding of your anatomy and physiology. And you guys know that already, don't you? Because it isn't just painting. It's not just looking of hairs. You actually need to know what's happening to the anatomy and physiology. So the body systems, in particular, we need to know about is our blood system, lymphatic system, the nervous system, muscular system. We will be covering more, but these are the main systems that will run through every theme of every unit of your program. Okay, so it's really important to know about these systems. This will be in level 2, it will be in level 3, it'll even go up to level 4. All this will keep sliding through. Okay, so we're starting off with cells and tissues. And there's a little cell up the top, we'll have a look at that. The human body consists of many trillions of microscopic cells. Each cell contains a chemical substance called protoplasm. Surrounding the cell is a cell membrane. In the center of the cell is the nucleus, which contains chromosomes. On these are the genes we inherited from our parents, from each parent. Cytoplasm is the liquid within the cell membrane surrounding the nucleus. And scattered through the cytoplasm are small bodies called organs, or little organs. So let's make our picture a little bit bigger, so we can have a look at all these different things. Okay, that's too big. Okay, can we see that? And I will a bit closer. So each cell contains a chemical substance called protoplasm. So can we see the protoplasm? You can't actually see on there. But surrounding the cell membrane is, surrounding the cell itself is a jelly-like substance called the cell membrane. Yes? So it surrounds the cell, it cushions it. And we've got that in sort of a whitish color. So it's the outer surround of the cell. In the center is the nucleus. So we can see the nucleus. In the middle, that's where new cells are born, are made. Yes? So if that was our computer, that's our mainframe. Okay, so that's the mainframe of all the cells and tissues within the body. This is the only area of the cell that can actually reproduce. And this is done through a system called mitosis. Mitosis, when we've done biology, yes, reproduction of the cell. In the center of the cell, the nucleus, it contains chromosomes. Chromosomes are things that tell us or lead us to say whether we're going to have brown or blue eyes, blonde hair, red hair, dark hair, and we get half our chromosomes from our mother and half our chromosomes from our father. Okay, so that actually identifies how we're going to look. Yes, and that's why, you know, people say, oh, you've got your mother's eyes. You haven't literally got them, but they're going to be very similar because you've actually taken her chromosome cells and they've gone into your body and they will look the same. You know how sometimes you look at a family member and you actually smile, they smile and you say, oh my gosh, doesn't that person look like so-and-so? Yes, because these chromosomes have been passed down. So on these are genes, which I said we have inherited from our parents. Then we've got the cytoplasm. This is the liquid within the membrane surrounding the nucleus. So you can see the nucleus. Yes, that's that purple bit in the middle. And then you have the cytoplasm, which is like jelly. Okay, and that surrounds and it protects the nucleus. And scattered throughout the cytoplasm are small bodies called ovules or little organs. Okay, you will not be asked to draw an organ on this paper, but you will probably be asked to label, or it can ask you questions, and you could say, you need to know, is this true or is this false about the organ? Okay, so it is quite important. And we need our organs and our tissues before we move on to our blood and other systems. So it's quite important. We've got our cells. We're going to move on to tissues. Cells tend to specialize in carrying out particular functions. Groups of cells which share function, shape, size, or structure are called tissues. As I say to students when I do this, when you came to the center, when you walked in, you came by yourself. You came as a cell. Yeah? Okay? It's just you coming from home. When you came into the actual centre, you then were put into a, especially now after COVID, we're put into a bubble, aren't we? We tend to stay in our own little bubbles. Yes?
Yeah.
So from a cell, we've gone into our bubble, and okay, we will share something within that bubble. What we tend to share in that bubble is that we may be doing the same level. Okay, level that we're on at the moment. We need to do the same assessments. Okay, so you then need to be shown the same demonstrations or have the same teacher show you. So does that make sense, ladies? We've gone from the cell individual, we've joined our little class, and now we have become tissue. And they have to be, we have to have something alike to be in that class. There's no point you coming into the class, Holly, and you're doing hot stones, and my class is doing level 2 manicure and pedicure. You may be hot stones a little bit later, but it wouldn't make sense at that time, would it? Because you're doing fingers and toes and painting and not using any hot stones and not knowing how to use them, or having all the things that you need to do. Sorry, guys, let me just put you on mute for just 1 second. Right, sorry about that, ladies. Okay, right. So, tissues. Right, if tissues are damaged, the cells divide and repair the damage, and this is called regeneration. Okay? So, if the tissues are damaged, the cells divide and repair the damage, and this is called regeneration. If you think of your little bubble, okay, your Sunday and Wednesday bubbles, the ones that I have, and let's say Georgina does not want to come into, or she can't make it into our class on Wednesday. So I'm ended up with a space in my bubble. Yes, that's damage to my bubble. Okay. Would I leave my bubble with that little hole in it? No, I wouldn't leave the bubble. I would then go and find somebody else who is of a shape or structure or function. So somebody else that needs to do that same unit would come in to my little bubble and fill in that gap, regenerate the class. That's the same thing that the cells and tissues do. Right, so the body is composed of 4 basic tissues. We need to know these, and this is why they're in bold. Now I'm starting again at the beginning, so I'm going to go back to my weeds and my flowers and my wildflowers, okay? If I say to you, this is a weed, this is because it's nice to know this, but it's not going to be in the test. So if you think of your garden, I'm going to go into the garden. It's nice sometimes to see those little dandelions, but they're weeds. Do I want them in there? No. I'm pulling them out and I'm throwing them away. But if they're flowers, and I say this information is a flower, it is important in your test. Okay? And then we'll have something which is a wildflower. Now, to me, a wildflower is quite pretty. It's a flower, but technically it's also a weed. Okay, that's why it's a wildflower. I didn't go up to Sainsbury's, or I didn't go up to the garden centre and go and buy that flower. It just happened to grow, which might look pretty, but I'm going to throw it away. So if you remember these analogies, if I say to you it's a flower, it's important. You need to know this. It's going to be in your test. If it's a weed, it's just information for you to know. And if it's a wildflower, then it may be something may come up in your test. Okay, so the different types of tissues are flowers. Okay, so we need to know the epithelial tissue, which is found in the epidermis. We'll have connective tissue. This is found in the dermis. Epithelial tissue will only ever be found in the epidermis. Connective tissue is found in the dermis. Then we have muscular tissue, voluntary, skeletal, or smooth muscular tissue. And then we have nervous tissue, neurons or nervous cells. These are all flowers, ladies. You will need to know them. Again, as I say, please don't just stick to this PowerPoint. You need to be looking at your beauty books, expand on these, or anatomy and physiology book, and you still need to be doing these tests online that will show you that you're the ProProps, to show that you are ready for your test. Okay. I'm going to move on to the skin. So we looked at our cells, you coming in by yourself, singular cell. You joined your bubble or your group and became a class. And we looked at our various classes. So in our various classes, we have level 2 beauty therapy, we have level 3 beauty therapy, we have nails, we have level 4 micropigmentation, microblading. Yes, these are our different tissues, our different classes. The classes that we need to know for our tissues are epithelial, connective, muscular, and nervous. Okay, important for us to know. Then we move on to the skin tissue. The functions of the skin. Earth is a big sunflower. Okay, need to know. Easy way to learn it, as we've written it down here, is shapes. Okay, so you write the word shapes, and then the first S is for sensation, H is for heat regulation, A is for absorption, P is for protection, E is for excretion, and S is for secretion. Now, let me just go back to E. When we excrete something out of our body, it is a waste product. So we only excrete waste products. We secrete a byproduct, something that was made in the body, yes? And we'll probably use it in the body like sebum, like natural moisturizer, yes? So we secrete sebum, we excrete sweat. Does that make sense, guys? So if it's a waste product, we excrete. If it's something that the body will use or has used, we secrete. Your excretion usually is thinner consistency than secreted products. So secreted products are usually thicker in consistency. Excretion products are usually watery, reason being they're waste products. Not going to excrete, well, I can think of one waste product that's quite thick, but usually they're quite watery. Okay? Also, there's nutrition, storage of fat, vitamin D production, and moisture control. And these are within the deeper layers of the skin. So the dermis, subcutaneous layer. Yes? Functions of the skin: secretion, heat regulation, absorption, protection, excretion, secretion. No, I can't. He's joining us. Okay, so we're looking at the structure of the skin. The skin is divided into 4 basic structures. You have the epidermis, which is at the top of the screen. Okay, the epidermis is the area that you can touch. You have a basement membrane. This will join the epidermis and the dermis, which is the lower level, together. Then you will have the dermis, which is also called the living layer. This is where everything or appendages of the skin is found, the living, everything that's alive, blood supply, nervous supply, yes? And then you have the subcutaneous layer, which is also known as the fat layer. So 4 main structures of the skin. This is a flower. The epidermis, the basement membrane, the dermis, and the subcutaneous layer. Our next slide, we're going to look, and the first section that we are looking at is the epidermis. There are 5 layers of the epidermis. Now, these layers that we've got here, stratum means area, are the Latin names. You may not have the Latin names in your test, or you may, so we've put both. So let me just make this a little bit bigger. If you look at the diagram, which is like the diagram in your book, if you look, there is the common name. So you've got stratum, they haven't gone into common. They've actually used the same Latin names. Let me start with the common names, otherwise I shall give them to you. That's fine. Right, so you've got stratum corneum, or the horny layer. And we work from outside in. So the stratum corneum is the layer that you can actually touch, okay? And then we work into the skin there. So stratum corneum, or the horny layer. Stratum lucidum, yes, which is underneath, which is also known as the see-through or clear layer. See-through or clear layer. Stratum granulosidium, which is known as the granular layer. The granular layer. Stratum spinduloosum, which is the prickle cell layer. And stratum germinativum, or the germinative layer. Okay, so in your books, you will have the common names. These are the Latin names. So we've given you both names just in case the test paper decides to use Latin that day, or they might be a little bit common that day. Okay, so this is the epidermis. There is no blood supply in the epidermis. Okay, so these are just layers of skin. So if you cut yourself and you cut yourself to the epidermis, I'm sure it's happened to us, you know, when you scratch yourself and it doesn't bleed, that's because you have not gone deep enough to the dermis. Okay, and the 5 layers of the epidermis constantly change over a period of 28 days. So they start right at the bottom at the germinative layer, and germinative zone, and they work their way right up the stratum corneum or the horny layer. Okay, no blood supply. That means you cannot bleed if you cut in that area. Right. They've not given this layer. Okay, so I've just done that for you. So we've moved one slide on, but there's a little picture. Now, I wanted to just have a look at this slide. So you've got the clear layer, stratum corneum, you've got the granular layer, and this is how it looks under a microscope. Okay, I'm just gonna make mine a little bit smaller because I want to show you something like that's it. Okay, so you've got the granular layer. Under the microscope, granular layer looks almost like dry coffee beans. Okay, so it's dry coffee beans. Then you've got the spinal layer. Yeah. So this one is the one where they're using the common words. And when you look under the layer, they have little spindles on them, and they look like they're joining hands. They love it. Okay, so they have little spindles that stretch out from them. Then you have the basal layer. Basal layer is where mitosis happens and you get new cells. But you've also got melanocytes. Yes, melanocyte cells. Melanocytes is what gives us our color. It protects us from UV light. So the nearer the equator that you actually don't have to be living, but your generation where you actually the word's escaping me, but where you actually originate from. Yes, the closer to the equator, the more protection you will need from the sun. So the abundance of melanocytes, and the melanocytes will be bigger. So in other words, the darker your skin, the more cellular and the melanocytes are present. Okay, so you can see that's quite big, and they're like little octopuses. The Langerhans cells are cells that actually also protect us.